In 3, 2, 1.
John, are we live?
We're live, sir.
What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. How are you today?
I'm doing good. It's a long week for me.
Yeah.
Got shoulder surgery on Friday, so I'm just getting everything done so I can take a couple days and hang out at home and watch a new Netflix series or something.
Anything picked out?
No, I haven't. You know, Peaky Blinders, everybody says I should watch.
Really?
Because I used to like Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like the British version of that, I think.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of a front runner.
Very
But
good.
if you have any suggestions or if our guests have any
Yeah,
suggestions,
we can get into that,
throw
sure.
my way. Because I have four or so days where I'm just not doing anything at all.
Yeah, there was one with Christina Applegate, and Maggie will know the name of it. If she's watching, she'll chime in. But, I keep wanting to say Better Off Dead, but it's not that. It's something dead. It was one season.
Married with Children.
Yes,
Although those
very
reruns
current.
would probably be fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely. You can't get away with the stuff now, but yeah. No, hopefully she'll chime in and let us know. It was
Okay, cool.
It was fun though. It was good. Any shout outs?
Well, my shout outs to you, and I'm almost bumping setting you for your shout out by doing this, for covering yesterday, because I couldn't be here. So you were able to cover the interview we had yesterday, and I was not able to make it in. And shout out to you. I saw a clip, and you did an incredible job hosting. So if I'm not in for a few weeks, you just take the show and run with it, buddy.
Well, you have a lot going on with what you got coming up, so you have to get your businesses in order, not affairs. You're not going anywhere, but you got to get everything set up so you can take a couple days off and relax and such. But I'm going to use, actually, you're correct. You did bump and set. A gentleman named Dennis Rodkin came into the studio yesterday. We pre-taped an interview. He is the residential real estate reporter for Crane Chicago Business. Super fascinating guy. Very funny, very talkative, but insightful and smart. So what I told him, and I'm going to tell you, is we're going to put a small clip of our conversation out today. And then next week, because you're going to be recovering, I'll be in studio. You and I are going to do a little FaceTime, see how you're doing, check in with you, and release another clip or two with Dennis of what we did yesterday and kind of get your take and go back and forth like that. And then I'll put the whole thing on YouTube. So this is just number one out of probably 3 or 4 clips. But he and I shot through an hour like standing still. It was fun. So I'm going to put this out and then we'll come right back.
Cool.
If you don't mind, we just sort of jumped into it.
Yeah, we did.
But I would like to learn a little bit about you and how you decided to get into real estate reporting it at all, but the journalistic aspect of real estate. What drew you to that? Where did you start? And what was your path?
Short answer is somebody asked, my boss said, can you cover this? And that's in 1991, and 28 years later, I'm still doing it. He has retired, and I'm still on it.
Right.
I was a liberal arts major, English from a small liberal arts college. That's not really going to, even in the 1980s, not going to get you a job.
Okay.
And I went to journalism school at Northwestern.
Very nice.
And was sort of casting around, doing all kinds of things. I covered school boards. I covered a lot of other topics. And then in about 91, I was covering various things for Chicago Magazine, and a new editor of the magazine arrived, Dick Babcock, and he said, hey, I want to start a real estate column. You want to? That was 1991.
Wow.
And when he was about to retire in, I think it was 2012, we were at a party, and he said, Dennis, you're doing a good job covering real estate. How'd you get into that? And I said, you put me in it. And he didn't even remember. So 28 years later, I'm still doing it.
So 28 years he's been in the game. So he has seen a lot of change in the Chicago proper and suburban landscape. Everything from the boom of the McMansions to now the West Loop, which we talked a lot about. We'll release some of that next week. But very insightful. I'll be curious to hear your take on some of the things we touched on. But very nice guy. And I already put in a reservation with him for after next year's election, because I know you and I have talked as far as real estate and a lot of other things, but real estate in general, that a lot of people are really just holding and not sure what to do as far as buying or selling when it comes to looking at November, because there's going to be some consequences, and we touched a lot on that. So a lot's going to fall right into what you and I have talked a little bit about on air and off air. So yeah, he was really cool. I really enjoyed his company.
Yeah, awesome. I know Crane does a really good job on the residential real estate side.
Sure
and
do.
yeah, I mean, with an election year, sometimes it's a crapshoot as to what's going to happen in the real estate market. So you've teased me with that clip because I obviously haven't heard it myself, and
Right.
I'm interested to get his take.
Yeah,
Because he probably has
yeah.
more experience now than most people I'd come across.
A lot of really fun stuff, and we'll talk more about it next week because we have two fantastic
Yeah.
guests in studio. But the one thing that I found really interesting and fun is he subscribes to I think it's just newspapers.com, and it's subscription based, and you can read newspapers from decades ago. And he says that he reads every day. He'll read a Chicago newspaper from 100 years ago,
Oh, that's crazy.
just to see what happened and kind of follow. It's really cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
you bump and set me for the West Loop.
Yes,
we
I
have
did.
Today in studio. We have a comeback guest, a second timer on the show, and then a second Mo, which is a first for us.
I know, right?
Pretty excited about that. And we have wine in studio, so that's cool too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna introduce our first guest, who's our comeback guest, and then I'm gonna probably get into a roundtable sooner than I normally do with Mo as well. Our first guest is Derek Westbrook, and I'm going to read this off because I don't want to butcher this. You've done a lot. He's a Michelin star certified sommelier. Wine Enthusiast magazine had him as a 40 under 40. He was also on the cover of Wine Enthusiast magazine. If I butcher any of this, stop me and let me know. He's been in Eater magazine, Chicago Tribune, been on ABC, WGN, and NBC, and on WheelHouse now twice.
See, that's the big one.
I left the best for last, John.
Of course.
Thanks for coming on. Tell us about your new venture at 1340 Beer, Wine, and Spirits. And then for those who are listening for the first time to a show with you, tell us how you got involved in wine in this whole world.
Yeah, I can't believe all those things actually. Like when I hear that list, it's a little surreal. So,
Well, congratulations,
That's
you've
crazy.
done so much.
Yeah, I've been busy.
I'll be your hype man anytime you want.
please. If you could just have that intro forward to everything.
We'll just follow you around. And yeah, now entering the restaurant.
Well, when we chat with Mo, we'll see if he'll have me on as your hype man every time you come out from now on.
Yeah, so how I got into the wine industry, I kind of just fell into it. I'll give you the somewhat succinct version, but I worked at a small Italian restaurant while in college. So I went to the University of Alabama at Birmingham. I worked at a small Italian restaurant called La Voice. And there I learned about wine, and I learned the storytelling behind wine, as well as, the science of it. And so there, that's when I think it first bit me. It was supposed just to be, a job while in college, and it became a love, a passion. So much so that I moved to Chicago to pursue working in the wine industry because, Chicago's what we call a market for wine. Wine, beer, and spirits is top 3 markets in the U.S. So I moved here looking for some adventure, and, and I found it. And I've been in the game ever since. And so that was, 2012 when I moved here to Chicago, and here we are 2019, and, no looking back.
Drank a lot of wine in Chicago, I'm guessing.
Yes, I drank a ton of wine in Chicago. Yes, yeah, my wine drinking in Chicago has become extraordinary in comparison.
I think I touched on this with you last time you were on, but I'm going to ask it again.
Yeah.
For most people, and I'm talking about myself too, wine is a little bit of an intimidator for me. So if I'm going to a restaurant
Yeah.
and I'm ordering wine, if I'm on a date, or even if I'm out with friends or on a business setting, and I have had the privilege of having you on, and I've learned a little bit from you. I went to Napa this year, so I think I'm probably better than the worst of the worst people who go to restaurants. What do you recommend to somebody who's very nervous about ordering wine? Is it go test more wines? Is it just keep seeing what you like, get an understanding of different areas where wine comes from, the different types of wine? What would be your advice to somebody like me who is just I would say an amateur.
Yeah, I would say try everything, like taste and try everything. So, and then additionally is, try things you've never heard of, ask questions. I think find a local wine shop that you really love buying from. And the reason why I say like a local or small wine shop or somewhere where a person will end up knowing your name, knowing who you are, and then they can kind of guide you through that process. And they'll do it in a way that's typically usually warm and inviting. And then, I think it's always ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask the dumb questions because there are none. I think that level of curiosity is key. And yeah, I think, if everyone is drinking it, go drink something else, right?
Okay.
Because, and the reason I say that is because everyone's drinking it, then you're not really learning anything, right? If you're always only drinking Cab, then like go try another grape. You may love it or hate it. And especially if you're doing like glasses, I always say go cheap and go obscure, right?
Okay.
To learn more and ask questions, and you'll be good.
Well, I found a wine shop just by searching around a little bit. It's called 1340 Beer, Wine, and Spirits.
Interesting.
Tell me, and in all seriousness, you guys do a lot of really cool events there. You're doing wine clubs, you're doing wine tastings, and then you have a wine class, right?
Yeah.
So there's a club, a tasting, and also classes.
Yeah.
Tell me about all that you guys do there.
So 1340 Wine, Beer, and Spirits. So we're located at 1340 West Madison. So
Makes it easy.
Yep. And basically think of us as what we call a slashy. So we're a wine shop where we sell wine, beer, and spirits, but then we also have a wine bar that we just put in several months ago. And so with that space, we've created a wine club where you can come in, and we have a list of 6 different wines. So you come in each month, you do a free tasting of 4 of those 6 wines, and you pick 2 bottles that you like the most, the 2 wines that you like the most, and you take that home. And as a benefit to that, additional benefit is you get, $10 off of any of the wine classes. So I teach a wine class once a month. And we rotate through topics. So everything from a survey of Cabernet across the world to a survey of Pinot Noir across the world. We've also done like regionally specific. So, Northern Italy versus Southern Italy. So we have that class. And that is my way to kind of educate the populace, because I think the more people know about wine, then they become better buyers. And I want to demystify it just a bit, right? Because I think the issue becomes is a lot of sommeliers think of themselves as, oh, I'm elevated because I know more. And for me, the goal as a sommelier is I want to help people drink good, right?
Yeah.
And have fun. And if I can eliminate the need for me to have to be around, then I'm off somewhere just drinking, having fun, right?
Right.
So that's our wine club. That's our class. And then we do free tastings every Thursday from 6 to 8. So then that's the hook, right? That's how to get people in. And we always show obscure stuff. So it gets you interested, it gets the curiosity going, and which goes back to my point of, how do you learn more? You come to 1340.
Yeah, perfect. That's where I got to go Thursdays from 6 to 8. When is your next class?
So the next class is, I will actually be out of town doing that, so we're going to have someone else fill in. On my next class, we do classes on the second Tuesday of each month.
Okay.
So I'll be in D.C., unfortunately.
Okay.
But we're having someone else fill in and do that, but I'll definitely be there for the December and January classes. So second Tuesday of each month, wine classes.
Very cool. And how long ago did you get involved?
So we always butcher this, Cody and I, because it feels like we've known each other for 4 years, and I've been around. I think I officially became a partner roughly about 7-8 months ago. And then we remodeled roughly about 5-6 months ago.
Very neat.
Yeah.
And this is a question I've asked a couple people. Do you find that the average wine amateur like myself, or a lot of people listening, tend to go sweeter wines?
Yeah, so the American palate is sweet. And even when we talk about like Cabernet and Zinfandel, right? When we talk about those red wines, they're actually sweeter. They're not considered sweet wines. They're not dessert wines, but they have a lot of fruit, or what I call ripeness. So the way to think about it is you think about a piece of fruit, right? So American wines, the climate's warmer, So then the growing season is longer. So then the fruit gets more ripe, right? So the more ripe a fruit gets, the sweeter it gets. So then when you ferment, you're fermenting the sugars out, but because it has that low, high level of sweetness initially, even when you ferment out most, if not all the sugars, the wine gets dry, but it still has that fruity, sweet note to it. Whereas you'll find like wines that are grown in other places, like I always use France as an example because it's easy. They have typically, a lot of the areas have a shorter growing season, and the rules and regulations are much higher. Or not higher, but there's a lot more rules and regulations in French winemaking, like what grapes you can use in what areas, you know, picking time of year that you can pick, what you can do, like manipulation. There's a lot more rules around that. Whereas here in America, it's, you know, the Wild West, if you will, which is great because it's great for innovation, but can be problematic for setting the tone of what is good and what's not, right? So, you know, anything can happen. You can pretty much do, in some areas, do whatever you want, which is beneficial but can be negative at the same time.
Now, this might be a very loaded question for you because you might say, I love a bunch of them. Do you have some favorites?
Everything.
Everything.
I think the one thing I've been drinking a lot of recently is wines from Priorat, Spain. So the reason why I love Priorat is there's this Catalonia. So you have Montsant, which is like, you think of it like a circle, and within that circle is Priorat. So Montsant is super hilly, almost mountainous. So, and then Priorat, which is in the center, is basically a mountain. You're basically putting a vineyard on a mountain. And the problem with that is it's a mountain, so it's super steep. So it's so sheer that they have to cut terrace into the cliffs in order to plant vines, and that produces really big, weighty, huge wines, right? And that's nice, but I like them as they age as well. So it's cool because you get the best of both worlds. If you want something like big, powerful, then you drink it young. But if you want something that has to get kind of like more velvety, creamy, softer, floral texture, that comes out as these wines age, and I love that about them. And then the white wines are fantastic, and they only make a small percentage of white wines, but they're phenomenal.
They must have laughed at me when I went to Napa because I knew nothing. I can imagine him going in there and having a conversation with somebody in Napa or Sonoma or Spain, and then I'd come in there and I'm just tasting the samples that they give me, looking like I don't know anything at all.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. So it's funny. A lot of times when people are talking to me and they're talking about wine, like there's some genuflect or some may feel like uncomfortable, and it's like, yo, like there's two rules that I have, right? One is it yummy? Let's talk about yummy, and then we can talk about why you do or don't like something. And then the number two thing is, like, it's grape juice. Like when we at the end of the day, we're talking about grape juice. So like I like to diffuse kind of that I need to know or I need to impress or I'm scared to say anything. It's like, first of all, I probably heard every question in the world that you can ask about wine, whether, you know, every quote unquote dumb question you can ask. And so there's not something that someone's going to ask that I probably haven't heard. And I know I don't know the answers to everything. So like I always say, like, it's just grape juice, guys. Like,
well, you have a crazy passion for it. And I can tell. I mean, you went from this, like you said, it was supposed to be a college job, then it turned into a passion, and then you made it to the point where you're on the cover of basically the largest wine magazine, and then becoming a Michelin star sommelier to now owning a wine beer. I don't want to just say it's wine, beer, and spirit shop. You've taken a passion and it's become kind of a life for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
I can tell. I just wish I had 1,000th of his knowledge when I was sitting there in Napa.
Yep.
You'll appreciate the story. So obviously when you're in Napa, they want you to buy their wine. Right. So I felt bad. My friend Sean bought some wine. And I was like, well, now I got to buy some wine. And the gentleman was super nice at the winery. And, you know, he's like, so what do you like? And I said, sweeter wine. So he said, well, this is the sweetest. But he didn't tell me it was port. He didn't tell me it was like dessert wine. So I ordered a case of what ended up being like dessert wine. And I wasn't just going to drink that all the time. So I gave them away as gifts, and people loved them. And I actually really liked it too. But I famously, instead of just ordering a case of just wine, ended up ordering dessert wine.
Yes,
because I just didn't know any better.
And the thing about it is like that stuff is yummy. Like I like port wine, you know what I mean? Like I think the other thing is like this misnomer of like, oh, you're not a real wine drinker unless you're drinking like dry red wine. It's like No, for me, a real wine drinker is a person who can appreciate all of the categories.
Yeah.
You have your favorite.
Yeah.
Drink your favorite. If you want to put ice in your Chardonnay, do it. Like, don't stress about that.
Yeah.
It's all about the curiosity, and it's all about like knowing what you do and don't like, and willing to explore. I'd rather you have no knowledge, or I'd rather you only exclusively drink sweet wine, but then have a knowledge of all the wines,
Yeah.
or have a curiosity at least will to try everything. That's the only thing I care about. And so,
Yeah.
like, I think that's funny. I think it's hilarious because there's times where I'll pour wine for people and not tell them, because I don't want them to have the preconceived notions. Like Riesling is one of those grapes where everybody thinks Riesling has to be sweet. It can be sweet or dry. And the fun part about that is a person will come up and say, I hate Riesling, but I love dry white wine. And I'm like, perfect.
I got you.
Yep. and that's fun for me. And it's not to be a jerk. It can come off jerky sometimes, but it's to show you that, like, try it all.
Yeah.
And try stuff you don't like. There's wines that I taste that I don't like. And I know I'm not going to like it, but I need to taste it in order to have an understanding for it. And every once in a while I get surprised. And that's the fun part.
See, that's what I got to do. Because I'm a curious person. I'll try anything once. So I got to try all different types of wine. Because I've settled into a comfort zone. I said this off air, where I just like champagne now. So if I'm ordering stuff or if I have a choice, like, I'll just go to that because it's my safe.
Yeah,
my
champagne's
spot.
fire too. Champagne.
That's my safety
fire.
net there. So
Yeah.
I just go there because I'm like, it tastes good and I like it. And it is what it is.
When
for
in
me.
doubt, go with what you know. And
Yeah.
and then the cool thing is like the level of curiosity. And plus, you got a local wine shop that you can.
I know. Now
explore.
I gotta come by. And I said this last time, and I haven't done it. I genuinely want to learn more. So
Yeah.
I have to be curious. I got to come in and who better to learn from? So you brought some wine.
Yes.
Let's give it a shot. What do we have?
So we have For a Song Syrah. So this is a Syrah out of Columbia Valley, Washington. And what I love about it is Syrah is one of those grape varietals that is, it's well known enough that if I say it, you won't be like, what is that? But having its identity is a little obscure because of where it comes from. Like, you find Syrah originally, like, I like Syrah from southern France, like Rhone Valley. I like those kind of opulent wines. But in this case, this is like 2013 is the vintage, if I'm not mistaken. So what happens with wine as it gets older, it starts to lose a little color, and it starts to what we call like soften, like mellow out a little bit. And so then you get secondary and tertiary flavors. Now, do you need to know anything I'm saying in order to enjoy the wine?
Mental
Not
notes.
at all. yeah. Like I tell people, I was like, look, ultimately, I'm gonna give you all the game you need. Do you need to remember it in order to enjoy it? Heck no. Right? So so this is just red wine from Columbia Valley, Washington. I know I was talking crap about California and American wine, but this is one of my favorite American wines. Just because of the way it's made, it's just really well made, and it has some age on it, and it's not going to break the bank either. So,
How much is this bottle?
so this bottle is I think $28.
Oh, not bad at all.
That's not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. So
Well, I'm going to take this time to introduce our second guest, John, because he's about to drink with us, and I want to introduce him as we begin to drink. And I'm not going to butcher the last name. I'm not going to butcher his first name because his first name's Mo. So Mo NG, right?
NJ.
NG. I effed it up.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I even
Two
wrote it
syllables.
out.
first of all, you're a lot closer than a lot of other people.
But he also told me before we came on air, so I was close at least there. Mo is the founder creator of Dim Events, Mo Management, and then a project that he's in a company that he's working on with you, Derek, Samples and Samples.
Correct.
So Mo, welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Let's drink this thing, and then we're going to get into everything that you do. Cheers.
Cheers,
John's
gentlemen.
got one too.
Absolutely.
Terrible, I know, right, guys?
No, that
Horrible.
that was really good.
This is my
Wow, that's nice.
It made my mouth
That's real
water.
nice.
You know what you taught me last time was don't grab the
Yeah.
the wine glass like this,
Yeah.
like a full
Stem
grab,
it. Yeah.
stem it.
Stem.
And now, like when I see people grab it, I'm like, oh, what are you doing? I got something.
You gotta meet
Derek
Derek.
taught me something.
So this is funny. It's something you can unsee. And for me, right, one of the quirks is in movies, like I'll see people grab it improperly in movie and TV, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like why? Especially if someone's like, if like there's someone who's like supposedly sophisticated, and then they grab it by like the bowl. It's like, oh, well, I don't believe you anymore. I don't believe the character anymore.
Yep.
It's so weird. It's
I
so
want my money back.
it's my own little tick. Like it doesn't matter, right? But it's my own little tick.
Because of you, I cannot unsee it at restaurants. It is when people grab it like this. I was like, you don't know what you're doing. Neither do I, but at least I got one step up on everybody. So you taught me that.
Hell yeah.
And I was thinking when you were pouring it, I am not grabbing it by the glass. And then it's done. I learned something last time.
Yeah.
So Mo, tell us what you do with DIM Events, Mo Management, and how you got to know Derek.
Yeah, definitely. So DIM Events started as kind of like a nightlife company. Just give you a quick backstory. I went to DePaul University, and that's kind of how I came to Chicago. And we noticed that there was no market for students who were under 21. So we would rent people's houses out and throw parties. And the first party we threw, in the first 2 hours, we ended up like getting a keg and all of this stuff and made it work and had a cool experience. But we made $1,500 in 2 hours. So I was like, whoa, this is crazy, especially for a college kid who's just 18. So that kind of helped us break into the Chicago nightlife scene. And we did that for like the next 2 to 3 years. And then we started working with actual nightlife companies. So I ended up interning with Rocket Ranch Production, and that's really where I kind of got my name and the promotion and marketing and helping out with their fashion show that they would have to kind of push early traffic at Underground. So that's how I got started in that world, and then slowly shifted over into more experiential events because I noticed like around 24-ish, 25-ish, that a lot of my friends weren't going out, so it was getting tougher. And like building those teams to kind of promote, we had to go a lot younger than older. So we started doing like dinners, we started doing art shows, and through that I would brand those individuals who were being a part of the event. So those might be painters, those might be chefs, and working with them, noticed that it was creating a platform for them, and I started to build that in my own manner. And now DIM Events has kind of grown into a little more where we're doing video production, brought on someone who's doing social media, and now one of my favorite passions is internship building. So that really stemmed from a need basis. When I was in corporate, I used to meet with my interns like every Sunday just because Monday through Friday didn't really work for me. So I meet with them every Sunday to like give fresh ideas, kind of see what they're seeing in the market. And then I would apply that to the clients that I had working my corporate job as well. And then that turned into them being like, man, I love this. Like, you should turn this into like a class. And I was like, really? I never thought about that. But I also saw like tapping into my network and introducing them to career fields that they would have never thought of became something that was very passionate to me. Especially coming from Minnesota where I didn't know like this could be a career field that I could really tap into. So now going into like Mo Management, that started off where one of the artists who had been in our show, A Sounds, that we ended up doing like a 500 person larger event with Milagro Tequila. He was like, man, every time I come here, I sell all these paintings. Like, and this is the place where I usually get like, you always put the artist first. So I was like, yeah, like that's the whole point of this instead of just like making money off of it. So Davey was actually one of the artists that I worked with as far as management. And then that turned into a comedy group asking me to get them a venue. From there, they ended up asking me to like kind of procure all of their events, which turned into a management situation. And then doing a small Midwest tour with them, which was really cool. And then shooting a pilot with Steppenwolf Theater kind of bringing in like a comedy act for Steppenwolf, which is something completely different.
Yeah.
And then that kind of led me to Derek, where we had a mutual friend, Langston, and actually, Derek always forgets about this part about the story, right?
Selectively forgets?
Yes, always forgets about it. So I'm gonna air it out
Selective
here.
memory here.
First of all,
Don't worry, I
there
got
we
it
go.
too.
I think.
Huh?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. I'm just so Langston is our mutual friend, and Derek had. It makes sense now, but Derek had started the what was the wine company you had?
Oh, so I had the Wineman,
Yeah.
which is a wine company where we did like wine tastings and home wine tastings, and we did it on a really small level. But yeah,
Yeah. So he had started that, and he had told me about it because he knew I was kind of veering off into experiential. He was like, "Oh, you and Derek should connect." So he put us in a group text, and I responded, and I never heard anything from Derek.
Oh,
Oh man.
so
you ghosted him.
Ghosted me.
so what happened was so
He
during that
lost
time,
his phone.
so during that time, I was at Elizabeth restaurant. Was it? Yeah, I was at Elizabeth and we were. I think when I got the group chat was in the middle of a menu change, and like when we changed menus, so chef would change menus roughly about quarterly. And so when we go in the menu change, like everything shuts down. So I basically spend the entire time like building pairings, tasting the chef's food, trying to figure out what we're gonna do. And so if you look through like text messages, you can see where like I'll get like 20 text messages that I've read and not responded to any of them because I'll just look at them and then be like, oh, okay. And so that was definitely one of them. And I was like, man, I don't want to take on anything else. Like I could meet him and he could be dope, but I'm good. like, I'm good. I'm tired. Like I don't want to think about any other opportunities. And then ultimately we end up he kind of curated us meeting through his birthday, our friend Langston. So I mean, you can tell the story.
Yeah,
from there.
we met there. It was
crazy.
It was good.
To your credit, I don't like seeing notifications on my phone. So I'll read text messages even when I'm busy and then sometimes forget to go back.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you guys finally got to connect.
Yeah,
We did.
Yeah, at the time, it was like the way it happened and when it happened was actually perfect. Like it was.
And it meant more because I
Yeah,
could really see him in action.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I knew nothing about spirits, and I was drinking Hennessy as my
Yeah.
favorite cognac. And he came in there, and he was like talking very passionately about this cognac that I had never heard about. And I'm like, who is this guy? Who does he think he is? And then he was like, yeah, you should try this. And I tried it. I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing.
Actually knows what he's talking about.
Right, he knows what he's talking
That's
about.
amazing.
And Langston's like, oh, yeah, this is the guy I was trying to connect you with. And we literally met, I think, like that Monday
Yeah.
at the Virgin Hotel and came up with the idea of samples and samples. And yeah.
Tell me about samples and samples.
Yeah, so, and I think Derek can obviously speak to samples and samples a little better, but
But I like the way you talk about it more than the way I talk about it.
yeah, okay. So for samples and samples, like, that was perfect for me because I had no understanding of the wine industry. I was like, oh yeah, wine, sophistication. This is like perfect for my life.
You were like this, Mo.
Yeah, I was literally, I knew nothing. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's try it out. And I think, and the one thing that we did talk about was just like, this is going to be a very hard concept for us to break for the consumers that I had, which was, I'm trying to think, I was probably like 25, 26, 24, 25 around that time. And yeah, I was just like, this is going to be tough. So let's do it on my birthday, right? And for me, my birthday has always been something where I know I can bring people out during that time. So I would always put on whoever I was working with, right? So the chef that I was working with, he did the event on that Friday, and then we did samples and samples on Sunday because my birthday's on Labor Day weekend. And we had a pretty good turnout. It was definitely tough getting all of those people out, trying to break even on the expenses because I do all the numbers. Like, that's my thing. But yeah, it was a great event. And samples and samples is basically music, well, typical wine tasting meets live concert, right? And we always represent that live concert element with the DJ, and now we're trying to grow it and move towards like live music and like change the idea of what a wine tasting is and what's in the wine industry, right? Because I think it's perfect for Derek and I, because I don't know anything about wine, but I'm okay with that. And
you're great at event planning
right,
and putting on a party.
exactly, and building a community around that. And that's where I bring in my expertise, and I leave all the wine stuff to Derek.
And the cool part is Mo is a great, like, I think all of my friends, most of my friends aren't in the wine industry, right? Like I have a couple that are, but it's great talking about wine with like my friends who aren't in the wine industry or who may even be somewhat of a novices. And the reason being is, like, they give me a good barometer on how to talk to the public about it, right?
Great
and like
point.
they can give me an understanding of like, does this work? Does this make sense? Are my concepts landing, right? And then it teaches me how to take this really difficult concept and break it down and make it bite-sized for people, and to do it in a way that's really warm and inviting. So the great thing about like this marriage is that like Mo provides that space, right? And as he learns about wine, because he's a really fast study, as he learns about wine, like he can see where I'm trying to come from as well. So it's like he's really been a really great bridge, right? And it's funny, he's becoming a bridge, and he has been a bridge to like understanding what the consumer is trying to get, right? And he understands the concept that's in our heads because we created this thing together. So
Well, yeah, what a great partnership, because a lot of times, and we've had partners on the show, we've had people talk about partners, and a lot of times you have to have very differing strengths. Like I look at John and I, even in this, we have very differing strengths, but being able to connect on what the two people's visions are is so important. And I can tell you two do that. And Mo, I know from your standpoint, you probably have a very good grasp on trying to see into somebody's vision and understanding someone's vision, because what you're doing with taking a brand or taking a person and being able to manage them and not only give them a platform to grow, but almost help them bring their story out. Because I always say everyone has a story. It's just some people can't get that story out.
100%.
And I can tell you've obviously, through experience and through just having a talent for it, are able to then pull that out.
100%,
And like you said, you really needed somebody who was not a wine expert to be a partner in this,
100%.
because if he was a wine expert, you might not, that's not the general public.
Right.
You know, now you're kind of, I mean, you went from being a novice to probably an intermediate where he's an advanced, but you were a novice and you were able to kind of pull all that out of him. So what a cool partnership you guys got.
It's fantastic. It's
And
been
it
great
keeps
working with you.
it keeps it fun.
Yeah.
Especially just learning about like all these wines where he's like, and it takes Derek to like, for me, right, I think of it as it's just wine, right?
Yeah.
But like
Grape juice.
right? Grape juice. But like when we were in Bordeaux, like just being in that space and learning about all these like baller wines, he's like, look, nobody would, that's not their starting point of like learning about wine. And that's where it's just like, okay, cool. So when I'm out with my friends, I'm like, don't touch the wine.
That is funny. It's like looking back, I think about like Mo's starting point with wine is like he gets to start with like some really dope wines. Like his starter is, I always say like, since Mo met me, he's never had a bad wine in his life, right? Like, and like pat on the back to me, if you will. But it's really cool to see and really be able to like watch somebody go through that maturation and go through that maturation in a way that they get to see some really awesome stuff, because I get to see some really awesome stuff. And I think we're really fortunate to be in that space where like I get to, you know, I outkick my coverage and kind of like the things I've been able to experience in life thus far. And it's cool to have someone who like gets that and understands that, and somebody who's like, oh, who understands when we were, you know, we couldn't get 30 people in the room at one point in time. like we couldn't get 30. Like I'm on the cover of a magazine, and 2 years prior to that, I couldn't talk 30 people into a room to do samples and samples. And now we're gonna be in Stanford University doing samples and samples for
cool.
200 students, right?
So
we
cool.
couldn't get 20 people, and now we're doing 200 students, and in a year, maybe 2 years time. So it's crazy.
So tell us what you're doing at Stanford.
So yeah, so Samples and Samples, the wine tasting meets DJ concert. We're doing it for the students. So we're doing it for roughly 200 students at Stanford University. So they're flying us out to do it. So we're in and out. We're doing it on Friday. So right around Halloween, which is crazy. So
You'll have
the
some
day after
hungover-
Halloween,
you'll have
right?
some hungover Stanford
So
students.
it's gonna be great, and hopefully some people will come in Halloween costumes the day after Halloween, and
They'll walk of shame right into your
right.
concert.
So it's gonna be great, and I think it's a really great way to like kick off the weekend, and it's super exciting. So
And we're doing it a little differently with this one. We are going to work with their art center. So they have the Cantor Art Center, and they're going to work on curating. Actually, I can't even elaborate on it because they haven't really told me everything. Yeah. But basically, they're going to take art pieces that go hand in hand and pair with Derek's music and wine pairings to create a
So you're adding
visual
a third
experience.
element, really.
Yeah.
And how do you guys, so do you both sit down and obviously you're the wine expert, but do you both sit down and say, okay, this wine to me works with this song? How does that process kind of work itself out?
So sometimes it depends. Like sometimes we go wine first, sometimes we go music first. Like if there's a record that I'm really passionate about that I think works and feels right for the crowd, I'll pick that record and then build on, like find the wine that fits in that slot. A lot of times I like to start with the wine first because there's like making sure we find the right wine. Like there's a lot more moving parts to picking wine than there is to picking records. So I try to do the hardest thing first, which is pick the wines and think about the story I want to tell, and then find the records that feel right to that story, that kind of fit. So it's this kind of, is it puzzle pieces, Tetris, whatever you want to call it. Like that's what we do, and then that's where like Mo and I will collaborate more so on picking records together because we want to make sure that they resonate. Because the key, right, for me is I'm picking wines that I resonate with me, and then I can share. And so with music, you have a vast opportunity to pick so many different songs, so many different feelings. So we're trying to find stuff that like connects on a broad scale. So like picking like really big records, but then I want to show you something new and unique sometimes too. So finding those kind of niche records that I think I love, that you'll walk away singing in your head and be like, where did that song come from, right? So it's that balance, and we go back and forth. Sometimes we fight about records, and
We
have
all the time about
yeah, we do.
Well, that just means you're listening to more music and drinking more wine throughout the process of finding the right ones.
100%. And like we always like we have really great banter about like who got what right, like because it's always fun to see like what record hits the hardest. And it'll come out of left field. Like it's funny like what records really work and what records don't.
That Maxwell. So thinking about so what we didn't talk about is the tour that we did right after he got on the cover, and we worked with City Winery, and we did, I think it was like six different cities.
Yeah, I think so.
But we were trying to start in Nashville, his hometown. That didn't work, so we had to start in Atlanta, which was like very worrisome because we didn't really have anyone in Atlanta. And then we literally got to Atlanta and it sold out.
Yeah.
We came out of a meeting and it sold out, and people were hitting him up and they're like, hey, we need more tickets. So my job is to run and chat with City Winery, like, hey, we need to open up all these tickets. So I think that was the biggest one that we did. We did like 80 seats, I think. At
Very
that
cool.
one.
Yeah.
But
for our first
In a
one.
market that you hadn't been to in the first one that you guys went on.
Never been there.
Yeah, we never done something that was in that market ever before.
Yeah. And the thing was, we were going back and forth. Like, so for my job is like, I'll comment on the music, but I don't want to get too much in there because my job is to set up the artist for that. So that's where like me finding the DJ is tough. So what we did on our tour was we found all women DJs in the different cities that we went to. And then that's where the DJ and Derek have that conversation to do something that's organic and mean something to the place that we're in, right? 100%. And have a little bit of those elements in there. and then I'll like comment on it. So like the Maxwell song that he was like, no, we have to do this for 2 days. I was like, no, I think we should change it. I don't think it's gonna hit. And we didn't know who was gonna be in the room,
you don't
so
know.
you have no idea who's gonna be there, who's like what their music palette is, and that Maxwell song hit, and I was like, dang, that's wrong. Okay. All right.
And I had to let him know about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you remind him about it?
Yeah. I had to let him know.
Wouldn't stop.
He's admitting it like you've been reminding him about it since those 2 days.
He has.
You see, I didn't have to. You see, I didn't bring it up, right?
Yeah.
He's the one that brought it up.
It humbled me.
But like, and I think like that happens where like Mo would be right about stuff, and I don't want to admit it, but he's right. Like, so I think that's one of the things that works. And the cool thing too, when we circling back to talking about working with the DJs, is oftentimes I try to give them a skeleton of like, either there's a couple ways, right? Sometimes I'll give them like, the six records that I think work. And I'm saying like, it doesn't have to be these six records, but it needs to feel like this, right? Because I want the DJ to have autonomy to create, especially if I'm going to a different city. They have a better finger on the pulse of what's happening versus me. And so like, and I want creators to be creatives, right? Like, if you're good at this, you are a DJ, you pick music. So my job isn't to pick music for you. My job is to like give you a direction and let you go create. And then out of that, we create something that's better than the parts, right? So it's always fun to see what DJs come up with, what records they end up picking, the feeling that they get. And sometimes I'll even describe a wine. So I'll say, oh, I don't have anything for this, like for this wine. It's blank, right? And then I'll say, look, I'm going to talk to you about the wine. I'm going to break the wine down for you. And then you go find the record that you feel. And so I think some of those are the most fun and interesting. And it's like, it's a great surprise to see when they come back and they say, oh, this is the record I found and this is the record I picked. Because like, their records always hit. It's funny, and it always feels good. It feels right when we do that.
So do you get, what are the events looking like? I know you guys are going to Stanford. Are you guys coming to Chicago anytime soon?
So
yeah, we're gonna work on that.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, so we've done like 2 shows, 4 seatings in Chicago, like in the last year.
Well, 5 really.
5 in Chicago in the last year, and people always ask, when are you coming back to Chicago? And the reason why is like people really love it. People really love the concept, and the people always see that we're away, and they're like, "You're never gonna be here." And it's like it's hard because like Chicago's home, and in theory we could do it once a month, but I don't want to get burnt out on doing it once a month here in Chicago. So we try to like book the dates and make them big enough to where they feel right. So we want to do Chicago here soon. I want to say January 2020, end of January.
We might do a friends and family one. That's an exclusive.
Yeah.
John and I would love to come to either the
are
friends
we
and
friends
family
now?
or
Where are we at with that?
We can get you on the friends and family.
Yeah, we can make friends and family happen
make
for
that
sure.
work.
or the event. We'd love to come to it.
Yeah, so it's trying to figure out the logistics of making the Chicago one work, because it's funny, like that one is, you would think that would be the easiest one, but it's actually more difficult in a lot of ways because of like the amount of support and love that we get, and the fact that like we could do probably 10 seatings.
That's awesome.
So it's a lot of fun. We try to keep it intimate. Like I want to keep them intimate when we do Chicago, because that's the thing that where I can touch everybody. And like I want people to get that from me. So we're figuring it out. We're working on it.
Did you guys do Nashville eventually?
Yeah.
We did do Nashville. Home was really dope. It was probably the most diverse and versatile crowd. It was so weird. I was like, it was nothing like I expected. It was nothing like Mo expected. It was really, really, I was like, whoa, this is different. Like when people walking in, I was like, yo, this is okay, here we go.
So I was in Nashville 3 months ago, and I hadn't been for a few years. And every time I've ever gone to Nashville, I have more fun than I have anywhere else. And I genuinely feel like when people are in Nashville, they're just trying to have a good time. And I went with 2 of my best friends, and I said, look around. There's virtually every demographic and kids from look like they're there with fake IDs, all the way to people who look like they're about 80 years old,
Yeah.
and everything in between, all partying and having a good time together. And I was like, you don't get that anywhere else you go.
It's so weird.
It was, and it was the same in every bar. So whether you were at a smaller bar or you went to like Honky Tonks or any of the big bars, it was the same. It was everybody from, we'll say 21, because they got it, to 80, and every demographic
it's
just having a blast.
And I think too, like for me, I think that's why like I love the Nashville music scene so much is like you literally get to test out your records, your music on everybody, like, you know, and like on Broadway, at the end of Broadway, like the person playing at the end of Broadway who's playing at 2 a.m. is probably phenomenal, right? Like, and the opener on Broadway, like at, you know, 3:30 in the afternoon is probably phenomenal, right? And it's so great to see that like you gotta be really dope just to make it, but there's so much great talent there, and from so many different genres. Like, you know, like Jack White likes to hang out in Nashville. Like nobody thinks of, like everybody thinks of country when they think about Nashville, but it is rock, it is alternative, it's soul music.
Yeah.
It is like gospel's really big there. So like all of these sounds live in this one place. So it's always great to go back. It's so much fun going back to Nashville. It's very fun and very stressful because I just want to see everybody and everything.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that makes it tough, but I love it. I love
The
it.
pressure's on for you.
Yeah.
But I said that to somebody recently. I love country music, but somebody was like, oh, well, it's all country. And I'm like, no. If you go there, whether it's 3:30 or it's 2 a.m., there is a wide variety of music
100%.
being played.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, it was almost less country music than I was hoping for, being a fan of country music,
Yeah.
but you got to hear everything,
Yeah. 100%.
which is very, very cool. What's the next event after Stanford?
So I think what we're gonna do is how can I break this down? It's a long. No, I can make it simple. So what happens is having these two entities, these two businesses, having samples, and then having a wine shop. Finding out those schedules is really tough because they conflict. So October, November, December are really, really busy for us at the wine shop. So what we're doing is we use that time to like cherry pick if we're gonna do stuff. We do more private events during that time with the samples front, because I'm at the wine shop like crazy hours just trying to make sure that we do what we call it OND, October, November, December, for the holidays. And so then what we'll do is we'll ramp up with the samples and sample stuff top of the new year, because that's a different market that we're targeting. So it's about finding balance. So right now we're kind of in the planning stages for 2020. Now. So yeah.
Planning out a new tour.
Yeah.
for
Cool.
2020.
So
You'll have to let us know. We will share the tour on
100%.
John was asking me a question from the corner over there, but you bump and set it, and John just about set the ball to me so I can spike this question. Holiday pairings. So I said before we came on air, I'd ask for some advice, and it's a loaded question because, like we said, you'd say try a bunch of different things. Are there certain pairings that you recommend at different price points for, let's say, Thanksgiving, because you're doing a turkey, if you're doing a ham? Is there any recommendations, any basic ones you could give us?
So I'm not gonna talk about brands. I'm gonna talk about style.
Perfect.
And the reason why I like talking style in general versus brand, even more so than talking about region or location sometimes, is it gives you the opportunity to like be able to try a lot of different things. Because if I just say drink like song for a song, right? Then you may not have access. Everyone doesn't have access to that. So, but if I tell you, drink earthy, weighty, with reds with a little bit of fruit, then that's a style that you can take anywhere, right? So I'm setting the foundation. So for me right now, it's rosé, and I like really. There's kind of two types of rosé I like during the fall, winter months. The one is like this kind of like bright, minerally, super high tone, acid, white, or rosé that's almost like kind of salmon colored. Wild caught salmon colored. But I know that's very specific. But that has the acidity where it cuts through the fat, right? So like if you're having like a turkey, like the great thing about that is if the turkey is really well made, it has that fattiness, that juiciness, so it can cut through the fat of that. But if the turkey's super dry, it adds mouth-watering notes, so it can help moisten that turkey. So like I like really high tone, so bright, crisp, minerally dry rosés, or you can go like the super rich, creamy, super dark, dense rosés, because then those wines have a little bit more weight, a little more heft. I'm not a big, if I'm gonna drink red wine during the holidays, I want it actually lower in alcohol and a little bit on the lighter side, because we're all eating a lot.
Yeah.
You're eating a lot.
Heavy
you're getting
already.
it's heavy already. I don't want to add weight to weight. Like I don't like. I'm gonna be sleepy enough.
Yeah.
I don't want wines that are gonna be really big and knock you out. So I like those. So I like to go rosé during, like I'm drinking a ton of rosé in the fall and winter throughout December. I love it. Like
Perfect.
that's a lot of fun. And I think rosé as a category is like we hear rosé all day.
I was going to
think-
hashtag that.
Please do it. And I'm a guy like rosé all year, so like that's what's fun. And it's funny, even at our wine shop, like we pare it down. Like we pare down our rosé section a lot, right, from the summer, just because people don't want it as much. But what we do is we use that paring down to pick out the ones we really love.
Yeah.
And then those become the drivers for our rosé section. So our rosé section probably shrinks, I would say, from 30, 40 SKUs to probably like 10, 15.
Wow. Okay.
So
if I came into 1340 now, I'd get some of your favorites.
Yeah, you're gonna see the ones I really love. I think now we may be at 10, if not less SKUs
Very
of
cool.
rosé.
I'm a big rosé fan.
But those 10 SKUs, fire, right? Like those are the 10 that made it, right? That
Yeah.
we're like, okay, this is the thing that people bought a lot of, and this is the thing like we're digging out on right now. So
Okay, so whether you're good at cooking turkey like me, or in my friends watching, Sean's the worst turkey cooker in the world.
rosé.
If it's you, Sean, well, you still do rosé and you'll be fine.
And
This
then-
dry turkey he made last year.
and the great thing is if you bring it, right? Like it's like, look, I don't know if if you don't know if the food's gonna be good or not, and you're bringing it to a friend,
At least the rosé is good.
The rosé is good, and it's gonna make whatever you eat taste better.
So Sean, if you do your dry turkey again this year, I'll bring rosé.
So
He
yeah.
made it one year and said, I made it so bad that I would never be asked to make Thanksgiving turkey again.
Well played.
Yeah,
Well
he's
played.
like, I had to do it poorly one time.
Well played. That's a smart move, actually.
Yeah. I use a green egg for mine, so I do this whole
yeah.
procedure on mine, and I love my turkey, but I'm going to do rosé with it this year.
You like the green egg?
Love the green egg. I even have a big one and a mini one now. Because you can only really cook one thing on the egg at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad, for his birthday, wanted ribs, but he also wanted lamb. And I was like, well, I can't smoke two things. I mean, I have a gas grill, but I can't do both. So I went to there's this place, and it's a shout out to them, the Backyard Barbecue Shop.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds familiar.
Off of Green Bay Road. They got a lot of like really cool rubs and spices that you just can't find in stores. It's all this like mom and pop rubs and spices. And I was like, I need a little one. So I got a little mini egg, and then I got the actual large egg.
So a little off topic. Are you, when you talk about like barbecue in general, are you a dry rub or are you a sauce guy?
I'm typically a dry rub guy.
Hell yeah.
So I'm a dry rub guy if I'm doing like ribs.
Yeah.
But I'm a dry rub person with my turkey too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big dry rub guy. Well, so
Yeah.
when you talk about like Memphis barbecue, right? It's dry rub.
Dry rub.
It's dry rub. So I'm a big dry rub guy. And I say this as a pescatarian, but
Right.
I wasn't always a pescatarian. But
Well, yeah, definitely a dry rub
yeah.
guy.
When I go home, that's the only place. Like when I go back to Nashville or West Tennessee, like that's the only time of year where I'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna eat everything.
Gotta try it
You
all.
gotta try it all because it's home, man. I can't help myself.
Mo, do you have any preferences on wines? Like, have you, being his partner, have you found something that you love, or are you now I'm going to try everything too?
I never asked that question.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
you know what wine I like.
Oh yeah, I know a couple.
There's a grape out of Austria, Zygo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like one of
yeah.
my favorites.
Yeah, he loves
Really
it like that.
funky, earthy notes on that one. Light on the palate.
Got the
though, you know,
verbiage
you
now.
know.
Look at him.
So proud.
It's like when you turn 16, if like your friend's got a Ferrari dealer and he's just gonna let you keep driving Ferrari, you're gonna
I'm just gonna crank it out.
spoiled already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at him.
So yeah, that's one. And then there is this interesting sparkling that we have from
the quiche.
Was that from the Ukrainian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Armenian. It's Armenian sparkling.
No, I'm talking about the Ukrainian people that we hung out
Oh
with.
yeah, when we were in Bordeaux.
Yeah.
What was it called? Oh, I can't remember. I can see the label now. It was fire. Too.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like I gave some of that to my girlfriend's dad for his birthday.
It was
but
so fire.
I ran into them because I was I got lost. I was trying to figure out how to get to the hotel, and he didn't respond. And I also just didn't have Wi-Fi. So
And you're drinking wine all day.
well, I ran into them,
In the
and they
airport.
were at the airport. And Bordeaux airport is like very small, like it's tiny. And they were like, "Do you know how to get there?" And like, we're in France, so most people don't speak English. So I'm like, I don't know what we're gonna do. And they're like, "Oh, I think the bus is coming." I was like, "Cool, let's take the bus." And then Derek finally messaged me, so we got on the bus, and they're like, "Hey, make sure to stop by our booth. Like, we'll take care of you because we went through this struggle together." And I was like, "Cool." And then Derek and I went there, and I was like, "Look, we kind of have to go there.
Yeah, I don't know how.
I don't know how it's gonna taste because I know you're very peculiar. You're specific with the wines." And we went there, and it was like amazing. And then we came back, and then they sent us home with like 4 bottles each.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it was right under the limit to where people would start looking at you crazy.
Yeah.
They sent us with that many bottles. We were like,
yeah.
I still have a couple of those sparklings too.
Oh, you do?
Was it art?
Art of Wine.
Art of Wine, I
Yeah.
think is what it is. It
And they
is
had
fun.
some good branding
Yeah,
too.
they had some good branding.
Yeah.
And they're not here in the States yet, are they?
No,
Yeah.
we have to reach back
Yeah.
out to them.
So it's funny. I guess we can talk about our potential other business. We want to start getting into a little bit more of helping brands get to the States. And that's kind of the reason why we were in Bordeaux for a number of reasons. But like that's one of the things that like we found like there's kind of a niche is like helping brands find the right distributors here in the States, right importers and distributors here in the States, and like starting in Chicago, of course, because what I've come to find out is like the process for making wine in another country and then getting it imported and then it finding the right home is a very treacherous and difficult process. And what happens is you can have really great juice, you can make a really great wine, but if you're with the wrong distributor, and like you could be with a great distributor, but you have 2 different identities. You could be at the wrong distributor and you get lost, or you won't sell as much. So, what I've realized is like, as sommeliers and as wine buyers, we always, when we think of certain distributors, we think of them, have them as this is the natural wine distributor. This is a distributor who's got a really great book. It's really big. They have everything. This is a distributor who focuses on Central Eastern European wine. So when we're buying based on like who has what. And so finding the right home for a producer is as important as them making really great wine because, if no one hears about it, no one ever tastes it, then does it exist, right? You know what I mean? And so that's one of the things that we've been like working on slowly. Like it's been a really long process, and because we have like a million balls in the air right now, it's one of those things where like we chip away at it. But eventually, I think there's something. I'm answering a question that you probably haven't asked yet, or probably wasn't even thinking about asking. Is like that's kind of what's on the horizon for us. Is like getting more into that space as well, and then getting into the talking space as well.
That's very cool because, I guess a producer sitting somewhere else in the world would have no transparency into where exactly they should be here. Right. And the amount of time, money, and effort and product wasted going into the wrong hands is crazy. I mean, you kind of reminded me of a quote that kind of fits, kind of doesn't fit. I was reading a marketing article once, and it said, if you're not marketing yourself right, it's like your company's winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does.
Ooh, that's good.
That's good.
That's real good. I like that.
They have this great product, but nobody else really knows about the product. They're doing what they're doing, but nobody else gets a hold of it. So that's a great idea.
And there's plenty, like when we were in Bordeaux, there's plenty of stories of, small family-owned vineyards and them just trying to figure out how to get into the American market and understand what we're drinking over here and why we're interested in that. So
Yeah, because both of you now have such a great grasp on the cultural differences from different markets too.
100%.
Because how does somebody from Central Europe or Eastern Europe or anywhere across the world that doesn't have exposure to these markets have any idea? And you can't just up and come and travel the U.S. whenever you want.
Yeah.
You know, there's immigration steps you got to
it's
take.
tough.
It's really tough to do. So what a cool value add to the industry for you guys.
And samples is a great vehicle for us to kind of figure out like what each city, each town is into, right? And we're in major markets and we're in like even B wine markets as well. So it's really great to see like that is where I really love to travel in that spaces and talking to the people to find out where they are, what they're into. And like it's funny how like finding out what people's taste in music and their taste in wine, like it's a lot of like data, you know what I mean? And not data in the, like clicks, but data in like downloading and getting a feel for what people like and enjoy and a feel for what the market is a lot of fun. And meeting all these new people and faces is great. So
yeah, you guys are a wealth of knowledge. Like you said, not just on wine, but now on different locations, consumers' taste, palate. You know what makes them excited and happy. You know what resonates. Like you guys said, even the music it varies from what you do probably in Atlanta is different than from Chicago and very different from Stanford. I'm guessing as well.
yeah.
We'll figure that one out.
I'm really excited about Stanford because like I think this is probably going to be on average the youngest demographic we deal with. Because like everybody's there is probably 25 and under. Right?
Love rosé.
Right? And we're doing a rosé from Austria, so I'm really excited to see how that goes over. And so that's gonna be fun because it's really a new market for us as far as like. We've done some stuff on the West Coast, because I have friends who live out there. But this is our first, this is probably our largest samples that we've ever done, and it's also going to be a new demographic.
Yeah.
Right. Because most people come to my events have disposable income, right? A lot of disposable income, and I imagine Stanford kids probably do a fair amount, but
allowances are high.
Allowances are high, but there's not many 22, 23-year-olds coming to samples just because it's a new avenue, and so it's gonna be fun to see what happens with those kids. So.
Yeah, congratulations. I'm excited to hear about what happens, and obviously you're adding a third element of art now too, so that kind of shifts things a little bit more as well.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
At least they're really smart kids there at Stanford.
They are smart,
They got to be smart to get in there.
Yeah. It's funny, so the high school I went to was math, science, and engineering high school. Math, health sciences, and engineering. So it's the kids, I know the Stanford kids. I know that. I remember
that exactly.
I remember those kids. I know those kids, and so it's gonna be fun, and it's gonna be fun to see what those kids are now too, because I'm gonna be 10 years older than some of those kids.
So. And what's crazy is they were pushing for that event, right?
Yeah.
So the guy, one of the gentlemen who was pushing for the event actually was at Samples in Nashville.
Yeah.
And he came up to us. He was like, "Oh, I do student engagement at Stanford. I think this would be really cool for the kids." And then he passed it off to the students, and they had to push for it. And literally, I was working on this for 2.5 weeks, kind of going back and forth with them. And then Wednesday is when I called you. I was like, they want us to come next week. I'm like, oh, all right, let me put this together. So it'll be exciting and something new for us to explore.
Your management and production wheels were spinning all the time.
They're spinning right now.
Yeah. I think too, it's funny, and the way our relationship works is once it's booked and everything's in place, Mo's I feel relieved, and I'm like, shit. My turn.
My job is done. We talked about this last night. I was like, yeah, my job is just about done.
Yeah, and I'm now I'm starting to get stressed. Building the list, it doesn't feel real to me. As we're talking about it, feels real. As we get closer, but it won't feel real until I'm on the way to the airport. And then then it starts to rise, and it's okay, and then right before the event, I'm like, they may hate it. But then after like the first or second wine, it's like, okay.
No,
It's
they're
like
they're
riding a
young
bike.
kids drinking. They're not gonna hate
Yeah,
it.
I know.
Those are the
It's
music.
the,
They're gonna love it.
Yeah, it's the irrational part of me. I understand.
Well,
that.
yeah, it's your
But,
baby. So
yeah,
that-
you're like, oh man, like
it's understandable.
yeah, like last night, like the wine's picked right, and there's no going back. But last night I was like, I don't know, should I, like, are these wines good? I was like, I know these wines. I know that they're good, but I'm still like, I don't know if they're good though. I'm not sure. I don't know if this music's good. It's like, this music's
If you ever
good.
need somebody to sample it, call John and I. And we'll come let you know if it's good or not good.
100%. So
Mo, do you have any events coming up outside of Samples and Samples? Anything cool coming up?
Yeah, so I do this event series. I do 2 event series. So one is called Culture Cuisine. So I think we'll be doing like a smaller version of that coming up in either early December or early January, and that I work with a travel agent, but he creates cultural experiences for a lot of his customers, and we take that same idea and create cultural experiences through food and spirits and wine. So we'll always bring in a chef. So the last one we did was Japan, and then the one before that was Argentina, and then the first one was Italy. And shout out to Derek for curating the wine list on the one for Argentina and Italy. And then I do another concept out in New York. We've been doing that for like roughly 18 months, is Live from Dinner. And we have 3 of those coming up. So that is a 6-course dinner menu that we curate based off of who those artists are. So we'll find up-and-coming musicians. So we'll have an opener and a closer. First 2 courses will be based off of like early childhood memories. And then the next 4 will be based off of the headliner. So yeah.
You are one creative dude.
Try.
How does somebody get a hold of you if they want you either on the management or event side?
Yeah, you can email us or just go to our website, www.demevents.com, and or email us at info@demevents.com, and we'll be able to help you out.
You two are way more creative than I am.
It's just,
You guys are just creative guys, which is awesome. And it's great that you guys met one another, and thankfully you finally met him instead of just ignoring his message, instead of ghosting his messages, because I can just tell you guys are going to kill it in Stanford. You're going to kill it with Samples and Samples. And I do foresee a lot of collaboration with you guys, because I do a fair amount of business coaching, and I see this all the time where people are not the right partners for each other. They just don't have the right yin and yang, and you guys really do. It's a cool thing to watch.
and it's like, I think he's the brother I wish I never had, right? So like, I think we're both only children, and so the cool thing about that is like we've kind of built that camaraderie around each other, and being able to share in that way. And I think like the friends, like the mutual friends we have, are really dope. And it's good. Like, it's like, that's the thing that keeps us where we are. Like, and I think we both don't really take it seriously yet. Like, it's not. It still feels like
it's like a game. It's fun.
it's like we're playing
drinking
a game.
and listening to music. It's not so bad.
Like, let's see what we can do. Like, it's like, I mean, we did this. Let's go try something else. Like, let's
Right.
go. Like, what else can we do? Like, if we did this, then we can do it. So like, that's why I said like the accomplishments like that you listed off are really like, it feels weird in a way, because it's just us doing what's next. It's just us like saying like
keeping it moving.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really even notice like what we're doing, I don't think, either, because we're so in it, and it's always good for us to step back. Like, I don't think like Stanford, we didn't even really we thought about it, but it hasn't really hit.
I'm telling you, if it wasn't on Friday and you guys needed a hype man to introduce you, just give me a shout. I will come down to Stanford, drink some wine, listen to some music, and introduce you.
Yeah, please do, because that list of accomplishments is. I was like,
well, you did all those.
I know,
things. It's awesome.
But like, I don't like. This is probably the first. So, I'm getting into it a little bit, but this is probably the first time like I've heard all those things.
Yeah.
Like, this is literally the first time. Like, I know, like, yes, I remember them. I did them, but like hearing them all is like, that's surreal.
It's cool to reflect on that. One of my favorite quotes, it's Bill Gates' quote and Tony Tony Robbins uses it a lot, is we always overestimate what we can achieve in a year and underestimate what we can achieve in a decade. And you're there, like you're getting to that point that in 10 years you've achieved so much. Everybody thinks, oh my God, in 1 year I'm going to be there. And it's like, you've kicked ass for 10 years. So it's awesome to see you've done all that stuff. Very, very cool. Before I let you guys go, because we blew through an hour, we're moving on an hour and a half here, and I want to be respectful of your times. I always ask this of every guest, and I've asked this of you before, but I'm sure you're going to have a different answer than last time. Give us a piece of advice for somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur. It doesn't have to be in the wine space, because I don't think that's as easy of a space to get into as just general entrepreneurship.
I thought about this question, and I think like the first answer that I thought about was like run towards failure, right? Don't get comfortable with failure, but get familiar with that feeling. The other thing that I think, and I think I'm in a different space than when like I wrote that answer, and then like in this moment, and for me like it's, I want to take a couple seconds to think about this, but for me, the way I'm feeling and the way the work has gone has taught me to just be super thankful of all the things that are around you. And if you continue to be thankful for where you're at in this journey and the struggle and the hard parts, and like really sit in that and be mindful, like that's the thing that propels you. Like we always think about like there's no pill, there's no blue pill, there's no like one thing that's gonna get you there. But it is taking care and being mindful and being present every day that helps you, like chop the wood, right? Like it's the thing that helps you get to that point. And I know I mixed like 18 metaphors.
No. That was fantastic. I was saying this to somebody recently. I said, we've done this show now. I think this is episode 72 or 3. John will correct me in a second. But I've had so many different pieces of advice from people, and that's one that I will listen back to again. Great piece of advice, and you're right. It's a lot of good advice on A, everybody is going to fail, and B, be appreciative and thankful of the journey. I think a lot of people don't stop and appreciate the journey itself
100%.
Because they're in this space where being an entrepreneur, we can be honest, is stressful from time to time. You don't know when the next paycheck is going to come. You don't know if a business is going to succeed. You don't know if an event's going to succeed. Like you said, you have nerves going into every event because this is something that is your entire life. But being able to stop and appreciate the journey is super important. Fantastic advice too.
And then, having one last thing, I'm taking all.
No, go.
Go.
This is the nature of Wheelhouse is to help entrepreneurs out. So I love it. So,
and I think too, like making sure like the people around you, like, right, like the reason I'm sitting in this chair today, like, is like there are two people who I can directly relate that to. That is like the work I've done with Mo, right, and then like in a very, very tangible way, like Regine, right, Regine Russo, like she brought me in here, almost a year ago, was it?
Yeah, it was.
She brought me in here as a, with her, and just to help me to start to get me on the process of like doing interviews and talking and being in that space, because I expressed that I was interested. So like it's that team, like, and I'm eternally grateful to, everyone who works with me, like Steve Smith, everyone around. But I'm not here by myself, right? I'm not on the cover by myself. Like, this is not a me, it's a we thing. And that, Regine and Mo are like really great examples of actually talking on this mic right now of why I'm here. So I think that's the other thing, is the team is everything,
So important. Yeah. Shout out to Regine too. She's such a blast.
Indeed.
Taught me a whole lot about wine, and she watches the show. She likes and comments from time to time. So shout out to her. I'm sure she's going to watch this one,
definitely.
and I'm sure she's incredibly proud of how far you've come in 1 year. And I think it has been almost exactly a year, because we were around the same fall time period last year when you were on. And it's awesome to see how, from my standpoint, I'm sure I'm speaking for John too, how far you've come. I mean, becoming a partner in a literal wine store business, and then samples and samples taking off with you and Mo. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's
a lot.
It's
a lot of
crazy.
people don't cover that amount of ground in years. You've covered it in a year, so You should be proud of all those accolades. And Mo, how about you? I'm sure you've come across a ton of entrepreneurs and you've coached a ton of them and you've helped manage a lot of them. Give us some advice.
Yeah, I think for me, it's always like faith, like believing in what others never saw, right? And that's what my job is, to believe in someone's vision and see what they're not seeing or see what everyone else is not seeing, right? When you think of samples and samples, to me, samples and samples like the least successful event that we did, right? At the time, right? And now to see that it's taken us to these extreme heights and abilities to even work with Derek, it's very humbling, but it's also one of the things that people would have never said, oh yeah, you should do this, like this specific event. So I always try to keep my circle very small and always listen to, whatever God is really trying to say to me and move in that direction, right? So even thinking of like my internship building, that's like a huge part of my business now. And interns are looked at as like something that most people don't really care too much about. They're just like, oh, do this busy work and help us get that. But for me, it stems to like building Derek's brand, but also building up interns' brands, if you may say, right? Building up what they really want to accomplish in their life, and show them the vehicles where those possibilities are open for them as well.
Well, you're a super creative guy, and I can tell that you live on the motto of givers gain. And I'm sure not just you, Derek, but all the interns and everybody you come across are very, very lucky to be working with you.
100%.
And that skill set that you have to be able to pull someone's vision out of them and pull someone's story out. I said it earlier, that's not an easy thing to do. I wish I had 1/10 of that skill set that you have, because I do a lot of coaching and training of business owners, and I've tried to become better at doing that. But that is a true skill set that you have that not a lot of people possess. Even when you try to possess it, it's not easy to have. So.
Yeah, and I would say, like, for me, like, and this is the last thing, but like YouTube was huge for me, right? So I would be at my desk and I would get in trouble for it all the time at work, but I literally listened to like 3 interviews every single day, figuring out how other people got to that point, right? So when I saw like those things coming my direction, where it's like, oh, we don't have the money to do this event, well, let's find a way to do it rather than giving up, right? Like learning all of these things, or like going into debt, like listening to Airbnb's story of like getting 10 different credit cards and going into debt, and really believing in what they wanted to do was huge for me. And even like Kevin Hart, same similar situation, we're going into debt, like writing these false checks to like get to wherever he needs to be, like not scamming people for that, but just really believing in it so much that that's the only thing that you're gonna be doing. Because like for us to explain to, especially like to our families, where especially Black families, right? Like my family doesn't know anything that I do, right? They're like, yeah, I think he just does these things, and like I'll be on trips with them, and they're like, how did you get here? I said, oh, I'm working on a client thing. They're like, oh, sure you are. Okay. Yeah. So it's just like truly believing in yourself when others don't. Yeah. Like,
and I think for me, like my parents didn't, especially like my pops, like he's super like he basically created his own way, right? Like people talk about like, walking 2 miles to school. He did it, right? Like he did it, and he didn't understand what I was doing or what a sommelier was. And he was concerned and nervous about it. And once I got the cover, he was like, oh, okay. Like it took that, like, and like people are going to say, wow, like that sucks. But it's like, no, like that has been instilled in us, I think, both to like, oh, you got to go do this and get this thing. And our parents are proud and surprised and unsure, right? And that's the thing about being an adult now. Like I think about that with like having children, because I don't have any, but thinking about like where my parents are and the things that they go through, and the understanding they have is like all you want your kids to do is be okay.
Yeah. And
entrepreneurship is the one thing that you don't really want to wish on your kids, because it is the little long route. It is the longest way around to get to success, right? But
and the most uncertain way.
Yeah.
Like it, and so like it's the one thing like I think about this. I was like, oh, I see why like my parents were nervous and concerned, because they weren't entrepreneurs, but they there are adults and friends who I saw that were entrepreneurs, and they saw it, and they saw what it took, and they saw the work and the pain, and so it's really fun to see them like be proud of that, be proud of what we're doing, both our parents, and yeah, so it's just really dope. It's just really dope. So and looking like us, like you're not running from the idea of like you got like these are two black kids in wine. Like that's not the aesthetic that you normally see, and it's not something that I'm gonna run from either. And I think that like that's dope. That like that adds to the story. But if I can do this and I can move in this space, and there's no telling what can happen. So.
Well, this is a certainty. It's not just a presumption. I am sure that you two are both very big inspirations for a lot of people. And your parents have a lot of reasons to be very proud of you guys. But I'm sure everybody from your interns to everybody that you're working with, and even the kids at Stanford and everybody else, you guys are definitely going to be very inspirational to them.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Thank you.
I mean, like I said, you're going to be our first, maybe third time guest. We've had a couple seconds,
Right.
but I think we might have to
Right.
do this every year around the holidays. Because we do get to drink wine with
Yeah.
them. But I'm presuming that in a year's time, you will have like 2-3 different more successful ventures,
Yeah. Yeah.
and samples and samples will be killing it.
Yeah, we should definitely do this again.
Yeah.
It's fun every time, and it's funny. Like I forget just how much fun it is, and then as soon as I walked in the door and sat down, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a good one.
You're only getting 5 emails from me this time. After that, I'm giving up.
It was.
Well, you can't
I
feel bad
appreciate
now. He ignored
I
Mo's
know, yeah,
text
so
messages too.
you know.
I actually on one of the emails, I finally in bold print, please respond.
Yeah, and I was like,
he's like, oh, okay. He was right back to me.
yeah.
I think I actually saw that one, and I called Derek on
Like,
that.
are
one.
you gonna-
I said,
are you gonna
hey,
respond? I was
are you
like-
working on this?
I was like, yo, dog, it's what you remember when I ghosted you, Mo? And that was that
feel
conversation.
bad.
Like, you remember when I ghosted you, Mo? It just happened again.
I think we figured this out. We have to reach out to Mo.
Yeah.
yeah,
he's-
no.
he
And now
seems
it
like the
is
guy.
that Mo is I know where I'm good at and what I'm terrible at, and especially during that time because we met right around we met again during that event.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Over at the Drake.
The Drake.
Yeah.
And I was like, and when it happened, I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity, and this is the worst time. Like, this is literally the worst
I would love
time.
to do it, but it's terrible timing.
Yeah, I was like, this is the worst time.
Right.
And so, but it worked out, and I appreciate you texting and emailing, calling, like all of that. It worked. It finally
John
worked.
is the best
Yeah.
at
He's a
following
beast.
up.
Yeah, so,
That's the key.
Nobody is a
Yeah.
better follow-upper.
yeah, no,
John.
And he
When
had-
there's a guest that I want, I'm like a dog with a bone.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah. So I appreciate you. Thank you so
No,
much for
no,
that. Yeah, 'cause-
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you guys for coming on. We're definitely going to make this a regular thing, but we will definitely reach out to Mo.
Yes.
We'll make it Mo's second, your third.
Yes.
And
Yes.
good luck at Stanford. Not that you guys need it. I'm sure it's going to be a blast.
Well,
I'm
thank you.
excited
Oh,
to
yeah.
hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for this very delicious wine. This is awesome. I will have to come by 1340 and hang out,
Yeah.
take some
definitely.
wine classes, and drink a bunch of your wine
Yeah.
and get some rosé for the holidays.
I do have one quick
Yeah.
one before you get out of here. As far as 1340, two quick ones. Gift cards.
So we do have gift cards for
Okay.
sure.
So people can just come in.
come in,
Denominations.
ask for any denomination. I mean, don't ask for $1 gift card.
Well, of
but-
course. Yeah.
Ask for the $1,000 gift card.
Yeah, $1,000 we can make happen too.
Yeah,
but yeah,
boom.
any denomination.
Okay. Very good. And then when I was there, super sharp place. Really like it.
Thank you.
Private events.
Yeah, so we do private events. So with those private events, like if you want to buy out the space, you can definitely do that. We also have an upstairs and a downstairs.
Yeah, very
so
cool.
you can, if you email us, you can email me. I'm a little bit more responsive to the 1340 email than I am the other ones. but yeah, if you can do Derek at 1340 bws.com or Cody, Cody, at 1340bws.com. That's my business partner.
My money's on Cody. I would email.
I got a question about that.
Yeah.
John just kind of reminded me of something. If somebody wants to set up kind of a private event around the holidays, like a company holiday party, can they rent out the space and then can they get food catered in?
Yeah, so we're BYOF, so you can bring your own food or we can do the catering for you if
Very
you like.
cool.
To companies like we've had Deloitte, Accenture, those companies have come in and used our space and done tastings and classes. So big or small, we do everything.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've been actually, and it's been for a while now, but we've been looking to do some sort of a private event, primarily just for guests that we've had here. 'Cause
Yeah.
we've had so many people give us time and great advice, and thought it'd be cool to have everybody kind of come together and network.
Yeah.
And your place, when I walked in, I was, and I know we're on the air, but I really was. I was like, damn, this is cool. It's really sharp.
Yeah,
So,
I love it.
yeah.
It's a great place to like walk into every day. Also, I do want to say, pardon me, I do want to. I'm gonna do a little soliciting.
Oh, go for it.
But so I coach for a little league called the Near West Little League, and November 20th is our fundraiser. They're doing it at my wine shop. So if you wanna pay it forward, donate to, shoot me an email, ask questions about the Near West Little League, because I love coaching Little League baseball. It's probably, I always tell people I'm a Little League baseball coach first. Like, say, so what do you do? I say, I'm a Little League baseball coach.
Who knows a little bit about wine, but it's totally different.
So yeah, so if like, if you want to support something that's a really great cause, Near West Little League, you can come on November 20th or not, but donate, check it out. Yeah.
Is
Cool.
the info on the 1340bws.com?
It'll be on the website.
Here it is. All right.
So it's actually going up. Cody's gonna shoot me, but it's actually supposed to go up on the calendar today, tomorrow. So you'll see it on the calendar. But if you're following me on Instagram or any social, if you're following the wine shop, you'll see it. But yeah.
Well, count me in for a donation. John and I, a big part of what we do with WheelHouse is we want to give back to charity. So count me in.
Yeah.
As soon as it's up, I'm in for a donation from
Hell yeah.
WheelHouse.
Love it. Thank you so much, guys.
And guest Mo, not host Mo, guest Mo. The different, I've been putting up your, I believe it's Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram, yeah.
Instagram, okay. And so when you're doing things, I'm going to put it up there one more time. When you're doing events, do you oftentimes put things up on Instagram as well?
Yeah.
So that people can kind of, because that's really what I've been promoting for you.
Yeah. So I put up the events that we do up on our Instagram.
Okay.
So my personal Instagram, we're at Dim Events. Instagram
Oh, okay.
as well,
All right.
So.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And next time you guys come in, I do want to get it, and we are long, but I want to learn more about the aging duration of wines.
Yeah.
Because you made mention of that, but I know it's probably an educational, longer conversation, but I do want to learn because I have some wines, and I don't know if they're fantastic or vinegar by now.
Yeah.
So how to go about it?
Yeah, I think maybe that's the next thing we talk about. Well, we can talk about it. Like, I'm always open to people asking questions. It's probably one of my favorite things to do.
Cool.
Is listen to people ask wine questions. So yeah, we can get into it. It is a little bit longer than we
A
have
little bit
time
more.
for now,
Okay.
but
Yeah, sure. No,
yeah.
I'm interested, and I think there's probably a lot of people out there that want to know a little bit more because 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, what's good?
Yeah,
So,
100%.
that's all I got.
That's it from me too. I'm again, you're going to be, I think, our first 3-timer on air. I have so much fun with you on. I had a blast with you as well, Mo. John, and for next week, I guess we don't have anything for next week other than we
we've
will
got
FaceTime.
Dennis. Yeah,
I will
we've
be in a
got,
sling, and you'll have some clips for us.
Yeah, we've got Dennis Rodkin coming back on, and portions of his interview from yesterday will be shared with our audience, and we'll get an update on you, but also comments on the real estate from his point of view and your point of view, because it's great to have two
Yeah, I'm
professionals
excited about
really
that.
kind of exactly. Yeah. So other than that, though, yeah, that's the whole show for next week, and then the week after that, and I don't have a graphic for it, but WGN News morning host. His name is Larry Potash. You might have heard of him. Yeah. Larry Potash is going to come by. We're going to do an early show to fit in with his schedule, but he'll be on, I believe we're going to do an 11 a.m.
Cool.
Wednesday in November.
Very cool. I'm
Yeah.
excited for that as well.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I'll see you guys in a sling next week on a FaceTime, and then I'll see you guys in 2 weeks with Larry. So thanks again for both of you for
thank you
coming
for
in
having
studio,
us.
and
Thank you again.
we'll see you guys on air next week at 3 o'clock.
Absolutely. In 3, 2, 1. Hey, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Hey.